The Islamic Golden Age was a period of cultural, economic, and scientific flourishing in the history of Islam, traditionally dated from the 18th century to the 14th century. The various Quranic injunctions and hadith or actions of Muhammad, which place values on education and emphasizes the importance of acquiring knowledge, played a vital role in influencing the Muslims of this age. In in their search for knowledge and the development of the body of science, the Islamic Empire heavily patronized scholars. Money spent on translation movement for some translations is estimated to be equivalent to about twice the annual research budget of the United Kingdom's Medical Research Council. During this period, the Muslims showed a strong interest in assimilating the scientific knowledge of the civilizations that had been conquered. Many classic works of antiquity that might otherwise have been lost were translated from Greek to Syriac, Middle Persian, and Sanskrit into Syriac and Arabic, some of which were later in turn translated into other languages like Hebrew and Latin. Christians, especially the adherents of the Church of the East in Neo-Turans, contributed to the Islamic civilization during the region during the reign of the Umayyads and the Abbasids by translating the works of Greek philosophers and ancient science to Syriac and afterwards to Arabic with a new and easier writing system and introducing of paper. Information was democratized to the extent that for probably the first time in history became possible to make a living from only writing and selling books. The centrality of scripture and its study in the Islamic tradition helped to make it an education, a central pillar of the religion in virtual all times and places in the history of Islam. Classic Islamic theology emerged from an early doctrinal convergence which pitched the al-Hadith movement led by Ahmed ibn Anbal, who considered the Quran and authentic Hadith to be the only acceptable authority in the matters of faith against Mu'tazilites and other theological currents who developed the theological doctrines using the radicalist methods. Juristics thought gradually developed in study circles where independent scholars met to learn from a local masters and discuss religious topics. Ibn Sina and Vicena and Ibn Rashid are viewers played a major role in interpreting the works of Aristotle, whose ideas came to dominate the non-religious thoughts of the Christian and Muslim worlds. Ibn Sina argued his floating man thought experiment concerning self-awareness in which a man prevented of senses experience by being blindfolded and free-falling would still be aware of his existence in epistemology. Ibn Tufayl wrote the novel Hay ibn Yaquhan, and in response Ibn al-Nafas wrote the novel theologies autocratics. Both were concerning Odysseus and illuminated the thought of the life of a pharaoh child spontaneously generated in a cave on a desert island. Persian mathematician Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi played a significant role in the development of algebra, arithmetic, and Hindu-Arabic numerals. Islamic art makes use of geometric patterns and symmetries in many of its arts forms, notably in Greek tellings. Ibn Muhammad al-Jayyad is one of the several Islamic mathematicians to whom the law of Sinis is attributed. He wrote this book of unknown arcs of a sphere in 11th century. Al-Hazan discovered the sum formula of for the fourth power using a method that could be generally used to determine the sum of any integer power. Ibn Hayyan al-Hazin was a significant figure in the history of scientific method, particularly in his approach to experimentation, and has been described as the world's first true scientist. In about 964 AD, the Persian astronomer Abd al-Rahman al-Sufi, writing his book of fixed stars, described a nebulous spot in the Andromeda constellation. The first definitive reference to what we know is the Andromeda galaxy, the nearest spiral galaxy to our galaxy. Al-Hazan played a role in development of optics in the cardiovascular system. Ibn al-Nafis, in his commentary on Anoti in Anvisia Canon, was the first known scholar to contradict the connection of the Galen school to the blood that blood could pass between the ventricles in the heart through the cardiac intervertebral spectrum that separates them, saying that there is no passage between the ventricles at this point. The Ban Musa brothers, in their book of ingenious devices, described an automatic flute player, which may have been the first programmable machine. Ibn Khaldun is regarded to be among the founding fathers of modern sociology, historiography, demography, and economics. The earliest known Islamic hospital was built in the 800 in 850 in Baghdad by order of Harun al-Rashid, and the most important of Baghdad's hospitals was established in 982 by the Bayud ruler Abdul al-Duwa al-Zakhir. He was a 10th century Arab physician. He is sometimes referred to as the father of surgery. Apart from the Nile, Tigris, and Euphrates navigable rivers were uncommon in the Middle East, so transport by sea was very important to the Arabs of Andalus, exerted a large impact on Spanish agriculture, including the restoration of the Roman era aqueducts and irrigation channels, as well as introductions of new technologies such as aqueducts derived from the qanats of Persian and Persian gardens, such as at the Genera life. The 13th century sculptor poet Rumi wrote some of the finest poetry in Persian language and remains one of the best-selling poets in America. In 1260, in 1206, Genghis Khan established a powerful dynasty among the Mongols of Central Asia. During the 13th century, this Mongol empire conquered most of the Eurasian landmasses, including China and in the east, and much of the old Islamic Caliphate, as well as Kievan Rus in the west. The destruction of Baghdad and the House of Islam by Khalid Khan in 1258 has been seen by some as the end of the Islamic Golden Age.